Thursday night in OKC was supposed to be a preview of the playoffs, the third-seeded Lakers against the best team in the Western Conference. Primetime, the league's scoring leader putting his MVP case front and center. Instead, it became a total tragedy that the Lakers fans are going to be thinking about for a long time. With 7:39 left in the third quarter, Luka Doncic tried to spin on J-Dub, and then just doubled over in pain, limped over to the baseline, and laid down on the floor with his hands covering his face. This is the worst case scenario, because not only were they already getting blown out, being down 31 at halftime, but now their franchise player is limping off the floor, and it looked like he wouldn't be playing anytime soon. The final score of that game, 139 Thunder to Lakers 96. A 43-point massacre. And somehow, that blowout was the second worst thing to have happened to LA that night. The MRI results came back, a grade 2 hamstring strain. Luka is out and will miss the rest of the regular season. His status for the playoffs is also uncertain. Just let that sink in. The Lakers are entering a postseason without Luka Doncic, their main star. Just a week ago, everyone was saying that the Lakers were starting to look like a contender, but now that has flipped. And now it is not whether they can win a title, but now it's whether they can even survive a round or two. From a Lakers perspective, the timing is almost poetic. Luka was just named Western Conference Player of the Month after averaging 37.5 points per game, 8 rebounds a game, 7.4 assists, and 2.3 steals during a 15-2 run during March. 15-2. That is absolute proof of a guy playing some of the best basketball of his life, and leading his new team to new heights. Going into that game on Thursday, Doncic was averaging nearly 40 points over the past 13 games. He had scored 40 or more in 5 out of the last 7. This was peak, healthy Luka, the guy who looked like he was going to drag his new home to somewhere special at the top of the NBA. And now, his hamstring is out. This is the same hamstring that caused an early exit in the February 5th game against Philadelphia. It also caused him to miss several games before returning on February 20th. This was the warning sign. Thursday was the real season-ending consequences for not taking those warning signs seriously. But this is a shame because the numbers he was putting up were actually insane, leading the league in scoring and firmly in the MVP conversation, somewhere between 2 to 4 on most lists. In fact, I talked about his MVP case in my last video. Bill Duffy put out a statement calling it a historic season, saying Luka had performed at a record-breaking level, led the league in scoring, and carried the Lakers to the 3rd seed in the West. The problem is that all of that conversation is now in the past tense. So where does this leave the Lakers as an organization? Following Thursday, LA sits at 50-27, holding the 3rd seed in the Western Conference, 1 game ahead of the Denver Nuggets. The Lakers must win at least 3 out of their final 6 games to maintain their standings, with multiple tough matchups still on the schedule. But talk about seeding is a side conversation because the real issue is what happens when the playoffs begin on April 18th. A grade 2 hamstring strain typically takes 3 to 6 weeks of recovery. That timeline is shaky, having Doncic out through the 2nd round of the playoffs. And to be honest, as a Lakers fan, we're simply not surviving 2 rounds without him. So the best case scenario for Luka is that he misses the entire 1st round. The Lakers somehow make it through even a possible few games into their 2nd round series, and he comes back less than ideally. That is the optimistic version, and that requires a lot of things going right. Now think about who else is injured right now. Austin Reeves hurt his back during the same Thunder game. Now the team that was leaning hard on their 2 stars just lost the bigger one and is now monitoring the health of the 2nd. LeBron, for all of his GOAT abilities at 41, simply just cannot carry a playoff run the way that he might have a decade or 2 decades ago. He's playing excellent basketball, sure, but the gravity that Luka creates on offense just doesn't get replaced by distributing his minutes all around the bench. So let's talk about what the Lakers will look like in a playoff series without Luka. Let's face it, Luka runs the offense. He basically is the entire offense. He's the ball holder. He reads the defense, decides when to attack, when to kick, when to pull up. The entire system bends around his will and ability to create from the perimeter. Without him, you're asking a 41-year-old LeBron to run the system, and Austin Reeves would be the first option in the playoffs if he even plays. Reeves is a really good player, especially on the Lakers, but he's not a first scoring option in a series against a contender. After Luka's injury, the betting odds for Lakers title fell from 25-1 all the way out to 125-1. And who is the most likely matchup for the Lakers if they do advance to the second round? The San Antonio Spurs, or the Thunder if they advance even further. When the Lakers played OKC in November, they got blitzed by 29 points. They were down 31 at halftime against them on Thursday. The Lakers posed a real threat to basically every other team in the NBA, as we saw in that hot streak, but they just aren't enough to keep up with those young favorites in the Spurs and the Thunder. The expectation with a full, healthy Luka is the ability to keep up with everyone else and even beat them, be the third seed, maybe even higher. But without them, those matchups become mismatches. They don't have their offense anymore. And now there's also a broader question sitting underneath it, and it doesn't get enough attention. Almost nobody on this roster is locked up for the long term. Reeves, Braun, and several bench pieces are all heading towards free agency. If we look at Marcus Smart and DeAndre Ayton, both those players have upcoming player options. Now the Lakers are going into an extremely important offseason blind. The Lakers were supposed to have a deep playoff run, but now they will not have that data unless they somehow pull off a miracle. Just think about what a first or a second round exit does to this roster this summer. Teams usually re-sign players based off what they see in the playoffs. Front offices make the biggest and boldest trades based on postseason chemistry. None of that gets sorted out properly when your best player goes down in early April with a hamstring injury and misses most of the playoffs. You end up making the biggest decisions based on pretty much nothing. And while we saw an insane hot streak right before this, with many claiming the Lakers were going to be a contender, this could end the season. And while re-signing Reeves is an obvious given, the question becomes whether he's a long-term co-star or a future trade piece. How much can the Lakers really offer LeBron without losing their ability to pursue younger role players? These questions were always going to need answers, but a healthy playoff run would have made answering those questions a whole lot easier. And now there is one more thing worth mentioning, because this is the biggest thing in my opinion, and it's kind of ironic considering my last video. Doncic has played 64 out of 65 games required for postseason awards. Without that extra game, he is ineligible for MVP consideration and the All-NBA ballot. His agent is pushing for extraordinary circumstances, citing the games that Luka missed for the birth of his daughter in Slovenia. And with an extra few games, he might have had a chance at the MVP. So unless the Lakers manage to pull off a miracle or some BS to get Luka on the court in about a week, there is no chance that he gets that extra game for the 65 required for the postseason awards. Maybe they will consider him considering he was just one game short and he had those games that he missed for his daughter, but I think even if he does manage to get it, he would only get All-NBA and not the MVP. So whether the league agrees or not on giving him the extra game, the whole situation adds a layer of bitterness to an already terrible week for Luka. He was in the middle of one of the greatest offensive seasons any player has had in recent memory, and was genuinely in the mix for the MVP, and now he's watching it slip away because of a muscle that failed him twice in the same season. None of this means the Lakers are finished as a franchise. Luka is still 27 years old, and he's not really going anywhere anytime soon. The window for a championship is not closed on Luka. This particular run, the one that they had that 15-2 stretch in, they were breaking the scoring records, and had everyone considering the Lakers a contender, that run is over. The playoffs haven't even started, and the season is in jeopardy. But I'm running out of time today, so hit that like button, subscribe, and comment to boost the algorithm if you want to see more. But that's about all I've got time for today. This has been OHB Sports. Thank you for watching.